Instagram and YouTube Shorts for young people. So it's not just whatever Navara Media is on.
So I do find it funny that
They're ridiculous, yeah. It's support of a fucking authoritarian government wanting to crack down on shit. Like, shut the fuck up, man. Look, whenever you find yourself saying, I agree with Keir Starmer, stop and rethink.
It's got a
they
point.
acknowledge the consequences of, like...
Yeah, Kev's still going. Right. It's okay, Pete. Don't worry. Hello. I thought you would have been reading to like another gaming channel or something. Yeah, I'm going to be depressing people. I'm going to see if I can go live for at least a couple hours each night. Like I tried to keep it to like 3 hours tops mostly, because at the weekend when I stream with Andy, look, we usually go for nearly 4. So I'm maintaining a steady level because, yeah, fucking knees and ankles are bollocks. You know. I will need to figure out what games I want to do gaming stream. Like I've got BG3, Hades, the first one, Deathloop, King of the Castle, but I need loads of people in for that one. Plus, I need to download Crowd Control as well. I keep on meaning to ask my main mod, my super mod, Shanna, to help me with that one. I could maybe stream my oxygen not included. No. But yeah, I'm going to be covering, as you can tell, no, or that way. No. Mm. What are you expecting transparency from the fucking British government? That ain't gonna happen. I was suspecting you'd maybe go for like 5 or 6 hours playing it, but that just done that. DM me when you're going to go live, if you are going to go live in the afternoon, because you just wandering around getting injured and increasing your health bar sounds like fun. I'll be there to give you some light distraction while you're wandering around in a jungle getting injured. So what kind of traps are there? I usually give people 10 minutes to get in. So feel free to chat to me. More brew is needed. Give me brew. More brew. Haha. Brew. Fucking hell, 2 quid a bottle. Iron brew's expensive. Swinging spike, but mine inspiring. What the fuck? Ouch and ouch and ouchie. But yeah, that sounds like fun, watching you basically get a swinging spike to the face. I like the way you took out the fear. Why was he the way he was like moving like a spider was kind of just a little bit freaky. Mine's fucking hell. Yeah, he's an odd one, isn't he? How old is the end? Because he looks fucking ancient in the game. Like the way they've designed them, and oh my god. I'll wait till you actually do. I was going to ask you a question there, but 100 thoughts. He fucking looks it. It's all coming back to me now because that was the only one I've played up to. So those 3, 4 onwards. No, I haven't played 4. No. Might actually. The National. You spelt Mary's name wrong. There's meant to be an H between the M and the A. 4 minutes to go. Oh, fucking hell. I suppose I better bring up my shout on my phone. Boom. Oh, better make sure that. Yep. Four is like a movie that occasionally lets you play it. Oh, there's my 10 minutes. So did I start it? Oh, I started recording earlier. Ta-da! Got it. Let us bring up my dashboard. Yes, I know I'm live. Bleeding obvious. Add in 24 minutes. So ages yet. Let me bring up my YouTube. Still going. 133 people watching. Nice one. Boom. Channel. Bring it. So ages yet. Mute. Back to story. What the fuck? That's mental. That is an effing long cutscene. I've watched films that are shorter than 90 minutes. That's crazy. I cheated. Right. Here we go. Scottish government never told why UK vetoed $1.5 billion Chinese factory in the Highlands. Mary? 20. Fucking hell. It's in the Guinness Book of Records for it. Crazy. What were they thinking? Fuck it. The design choices, obviously. We'd need to ask Hideo why he done that. Xander. This is my Xander. Xander's cool. We like Xander here. The Scottish government has never been told why their UK counterpart blocked a Chinese firm's $1.5 billion investment in the Highlands, and they need to be informed, the Scottish Culture Secretary has said. Yeah. Speaking to the media during a visit to Bells Hill, which is south Glasgow, in that way. On Monday, Mary McCallan said she and her SNP colleagues had not been allowed a proper understanding of the UK government's decision to prevent renewables giant Mingyang from building a wind turbine factory in Ardsair, near Inverness, which is up north. The privately owned Chinese firm had said its proposals for the factory would create 1,500 jobs. Nice. But the Labour government blocked them from going ahead in March this year, citing national security reasons. Bollocks. Bollocks. That's a lie. The Westminster government, the Labour government down in Westminster, they're talking BS. Questions have been raised as to why the UK government blocked the $1.5 billion investment despite allowing other Chinese projects with closer ties to the country's government south of the border, because they're fucking hypocrites. Simple as. The China General Nuclear Power Group, a state-owned company, owns around 27% of Hinkley Point C in Somerset, while the state-owned China Investment Corporation has a 10% stake in Heathrow. See? Westminster government, fucking hypocrites. Speaking to media on Monday, McCallan said that the UK government block on the Highlands investment also did not seem to chime with Labour's messaging, noting that former Prime Minister Keir Starmer had visited China on a trade trip in January. Oh, God. That man is a fucking idiot. And that man is a fucking monster. And Burnham's a playwright bastard. He campaigned for Better Together. Andy, you can do one. McCallan said, what we had was the former Prime Minister visiting China on a breakthrough visit, seeking to improve trade relations and other relations with the Chinese, but then at the same time being unwilling to entertain the prospect of investment in renewable energy in Scotland. And without Scottish ministers feeling that they had a proper understanding of that. She went on, of course, national security has to be taken firmly into account, but what the Scottish Government is saying is you should have engaged us on these points and we can ask you to reconsider them to make sure that it was the right judgment. No, we're not allowed to be, we're not allowed to get stuff. National security concerns have to be thrashed out, understood fulsomely, but we were never informed as to the case that led it to being rejected, and we need to see that. Last week, SNP MP Graham Ledbetter wrote to the new Prime Minister, Andy Burnham, asking him to visit the Highlands to explain why Chinese investment in English energy and critical infrastructure is fine, but when it comes to jobs in Scotland, it's a very different story. He's got a point. Thank you, Graham. A UK government spokesperson said at the time, after careful consideration, the government concluded that there are national security risks associated with the use of Mingyang wind turbines in UK offshore wind projects. That's BS. That's BS. Former UK Business Secretary Vince Cable, Liberal Democrat, has also questioned the UK government's decision, suggesting to the Scotland-China brief that Labour had blocked the £1.5 billion investment because Westminster-based parties are reluctant to align with the SNP administration. They didn't need to align with us. They could have just let us get this so we could get those 1,500 fucking jobs. Labour are bastards. Elsewhere, McCallan was asked about the Rosebank and Jackdaw oil and gas fields, which the UK government will decide whether or not to approve for development in the coming weeks. Just fucking leave them. So Rosebank is oil and Jackdaw is natural gas. Just leave them the fuck where they are. Thank you. I'm fed up of screaming into the void about this. The Culture Secretary says, as long as the Scottish Government isn't making these decisions, all we can do is set the principles by which we expect them to be met. That is a case-by-case assessment for each bid for exploration, taking into account climate obligations, which is not just nice to have. It is both a legal obligation and absolutely evident to anyone who is living in England just now with their scorched parks and their agricultural suffering. How vital is that? But equally, it has to be balanced against energy security. I would very much love it if my colleagues and I were sitting around the cabinet table looking at the details and all of this and making decisions. We're not, all I can say is the principles. That's the other one that I'd pinned, but I'll just go into it here. End English imperialism. Rejoice, comrades. Omaha, the cat dancer. Hello, Omaha. Labour accused of backing foreign gas imports over Scottish jobs. Fun. This is more about energy policy, essentially. Again, I am fed up of screaming into the void. Labour's proposals to import more gas from abroad have sparked fury as Westminster was accused of backing higher carbon overseas fossil fuels over Scottish jobs. The UK government is considering plans to import more LNG, including the option of investing in a giant ship capable of storing liquefied gas and heating it back into gas to supply the energy system. Gonna no do that. Cheers. Also on the table is a strategic gas reserve which can be drawn on when needed. Just don't. Thank you. In the foreword to an interim response to a government consultation on the future of Britain's gas supply, Energy Minister Michael Shanks conceded that the UK would be relying on gas for decades to come. Fuck off, we don't need it. Squish! Rejoice, comrades. Squishmallow Dragon in the chat. Hi, Squish. Just don't. Thank you. But said that the North Sea can no longer be relied upon to meet our energy needs, and imports would need to be the priority. Holy fuck, Omaha. Like, a Tesco on Maryhill Road that we go to, like, not me, he goes, him through there. He goes to, because there was an incident in the car park underneath the Tesco, that Tesco's closed. We go, so we do the main shop, which will be getting done on Wednesday when we get our universal credit. Universal credit is Morrison's, which is mile and a half, I think. I'm guessing. I'm sure it's a mile and a half. I'm at the feed store not buying baby chickens. Oh, God. Yeah, I realised that, yeah. But yeah, so one of the shops that we go to for like any supplementary, if we couldn't get stuff in Morrison's, we go to that Tesco on Maryhill Road. So there's a Tesco Express just down from that. It's Morrison's. It's a triangle centre essentially. But there's a smaller Tesco that you can maybe jump into while he's up in Bishopbriggs. It comes as the UK government weighs up whether to approve Jackdaw Rosebank. Don't. Thank you. And against Labour's continued opposition to issuing new licences in the North Sea. Just didn't fucking do it. Their proposals have been met with ire from businesses in the northeast of Scotland and the SNP, while the Scottish Greens and climate campaigners have called on the UK government to turn its focus to increasing renewable production. I'm a Scottish Green Party member, by the way. Leave them where the fuck they are. Bye, baby Jack. Don't have Rimworld yet. Praise be Ross Greer and Gillian Mackay on that one. They are based. Yeah. Gold star if anyone can name what juice I'm drinking. If you know me, you know what one it is. Russell Borthwick, the chief executive of Aberdeen and Grampian Chambers of Commerce, said the paper should be essential reading for anyone who thinks blocking domestic production means Britain will somehow stop using oil and gas. We shouldn't be using it in the first place. Just do more on and offshore and fucking tidal. We're at capacity for hydro up here, by the way. There's not much we can't really do any more hydro. We're basically at the limit for it. But on and offshore, there is thousands of places across the land up here that we can put fucking wind turbines. 15% discount instead of 10. Nice one. Discount always good. I'd let it build up for years and years, and I had not for alcohol because you're not allowed to discount alcohol because of the law up here. I'd built up over 60 and basically money off vouchers for Tesco. So what he did, he downloaded the app onto his phone, and I activate them. So like he opens it and goes into the club card bit, and because I'm the customer, an activation code gets sent to this phone with me in the house, and I send it back to him and he puts it in to activate the vouchers. We're fine doing that. Itchy, 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 itchy. Oh, that's good. He claimed the hypocrisy of efforts to halt new North Sea production has been laid bare by the proposals, given that foreign imports have a higher carbon footprint than domestic production. It goes on the fucking market, the global market. Russell Borthwick, you fucking idiot. You know that. If you're the chief executive of the Chambers of Commerce up there, just fucking hell. They are mature basins. It's going to take fucking billions to drill down to them and extract them. We might get some tax on it when it gets sold. But, and it's going to take fucking years. Bare minimum 5 years. I'm thinking closer to a decade. So that tax take that they keep on saying, oh, we will get taxes on it. Decade down the road, you fucking bastards. Just do more renewables. Thank you. And if it's going to be like a bad summer next year because of El Nino, you could maybe put solar on all the roofs down there in the southeast. Oh my God. Nice one. I was 10. I've only ever worked in one supermarket. It was called Quick Save. It was up in Perth. Fucking 30 years ago. Ugh. Borswick said the government admits we will need gas for decades to come, warns explicitly that the North Sea decline threatens our energy security, and is now considering unprecedented intervention to support additional LNG import capacity, potentially costing billions. It's going to cost billions to fucking drill into fucking Jackdaw. Ugh. Rejoice, you're getting to see me frustrated tonight because of the stupid fucking energy policy coming out of Westminster. If you block North Sea production, you get imports. It would therefore defy belief for a Prime Minister to block production at Jackdaw and Rosebank, two fields which alone could provide more than around 10% of future gas. It goes on the fucking unless he's willing to fucking nationalise it and say you can only sell it to the British government, sell it to us, to the country, which he won't fucking do. Neoliberalism. Only then, waving tankers carrying higher carbon LNG from overseas. We shouldn't need to. Fuck. Yeah. I worked on the shop floor for about 3 weeks. Then when I said to them, you do realise I've got arthritis in my joints, mostly my knees and my ankles. Could you possibly put me onto the checkouts? Thank you. And they'd done this. Oh, you never actually said to us. So I didn't know where you would put me to begin with. I was hoping you'd just put me straight into the checkouts or into the cash office. But no, straight on the shop floor. They didn't put me in the freezer section though, thank God. I was just stacking shelves. It was slightly less than 3 weeks. It was about 18 days or something. And I thought, right, I'm going to have to tell them, because I was gradually slowing down throughout the day doing the shelf stacking. I said, have you slowed down a bit there, Katie? I've got arthritis. Oh my God. Right. Finish up your shift today. Then when you come in tomorrow, we'll put you on the check. We'll just change you completely over to checkout. Thank you. Oh, look. Platforms. I shouldn't do it. My uncle was a diver, so he used to dive down and he fixed the drills on the platforms in the North Sea fucking years ago. Then he had an accident getting off a ship, fell in between the dock and the ship, got banged up really bad. So he got medically retired from doing diving. Diving with broken bones, even re-knitted ones, not really good. Climate action should begin with reducing our reliance on imported energy. We shouldn't be using fossil fuels at all, ever. Now, just stop it. But it appears that the only oil and gas some politicians and activists object to is our own. It's going to take fucking years to drill down to them. They are mature basins. You not, Lynn? My dad works on Britannia platform. That's a huge. Hang on, can I read that? Ah, my chat. That's a huge one. Shame it's on the decline. Yeah. Ah, thank you. Climate action should begin with reducing our reliance on imported energy, but it appears that the only oil and gas some politicians and activists object to is our own. No, we this last year, this individual, doesn't want any fossil fuels getting used anywhere. Unrealistic, I know. But if I could actually get the British government to stop doing this, I would consider that a win. Right, anyway. He argued that the economic case for domestic production was just as compelling. Again, going to take years to get to them. Saying every million barrels produced at home supports 90 times more jobs and generates 150 times more employment taxes and more than 400 times more industry taxes than importing the same. I'll take his word for it. North Sea decline outlined in this paper is being driven by government policy, not geology. Mature basins, they're quite deep. So technically, it could be both government policy and geology. Thank you. Just saying. But climate campaigners dispute claims that the reduction in domestic production is to be blamed on the government. Daniel Jones, head of research and policy at Uplift, said production in the North Sea has been in decline for 25 years, and this is the latest in a series of government consultations grappling with the fact that oil and gas is no longer the solution to energy security and jobs. Energy security is renewables. That's how we get energy security, doing more on and offshore and doing tidal. And in certain parts, south of England, essentially solar. Thank you. Whether it comes online next week or next year, for example, the Jackdaw fuel will have no impact on our energy bills, which is the thing really keeping people up at night and will do little to increase our energy security. Even the most optimistic scenario, and assuming none of its gas is exported, it goes in the global market. It would provide just 2% of UK gas demand over its roughly 10-year lifetime. He added, the reality is the UK has already burned most of its gas, and the only way to insulate ourselves from price shocks is to double down on renewables and upgrade homes to get us off gas. This is just common sense in today's world. Look at that. That looks mad. What both fields would do is add more fossil fuels to a global supply that already exceeds what we can burn in a livable climate. Given the fires, drought and heat waves that have ravaged the country in recent months, it would be a disaster for the UK government to prioritise oil and gas companies over a public that has suffered through this extreme weather. Don Black, SNP MSP for Angus North and Mearns, that's just north of my home city of Perth, said there was no moral high ground in sponsoring oil and gas jobs halfway around the world while losing that same expertise here in Scotland through importing gas at a higher carbon cost. She added, for as long as we require oil and gas, domestic supply that is more environmentally friendly, it is an environment. Support Scottish jobs and the energy security of both ourselves and our European allies should always be preferable with energy security. That approach will mean we retain the skills and supply chains in our current energy mix that we need in order to deliver on the potential of our renewables industry. We can be scaling them up now. It is Scotland's energy and it should be in Scotland's hands, but the very fact Westminster is being forced to invest billions to import energy shows how badly mismanaged our resources have been. The Scottish Greens said that the UK government's focus should be on renewables. I'm being very fucking explicit about this. Just do renewables. That's it. Just renewables. That's it. I'm a hardliner with this stuff. If the climate crisis carries on and the polar and the ice caps melt, the desalinization means that we lose the Gulf Stream, and this gets deadly for people like me. I cannot handle the cold. I would turn into a block of ice. We are higher latitude than fucking Moscow. I don't want the climate to change. I want them to start dealing with this so I don't have to worry about living in fucking sub-zero temperatures for most of the year. Right? Thank you. Christopher Leask, the party's energy spokesman and a Highlands and Islands MSP, so his list, said Scotland is incredibly lucky to have an abundance of renewable energy sources with enough wind, marine, and solar power to meet our needs many times over. So we shouldn't need to be importing any type of fossil fuels to meet our energy demands. Yes. Our governments must be working as part of the transition away from fossil fuels to reduce the overall need for them as part of our economy. We need them to be investing in green industries and creating sustainable, well-paid jobs in the northeast. He argued that Rosebank and Jackdaw would not cut bills or carbon emissions, and said that new fields would not create a long-term solution to the jobs being lost in the northeast. Well said. More brew. Let's see what else there is. Excuse me. Sorry. Do-do-do-do. Hmm. What the? What? That's mental. Huh. Oh, God. That's mental, Omaha. How can you get washed in shaving gel? That's just crazy. Mm. Mm. Itchy, 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 itchy. Ah. They must have decided that getting AI would be a winner. Mm. Mm. No. Thomas Kerr's nonsense talk about language just reveals his ignorance. You're a twazzock, Thomas. He used to be a Tory, which is pretty much obvious, I think. So he used to be a councillor here in Glasgow for Shettleston, which is the East End. Mm. But now he's Reform, and he's an MSP. He's list, because none of them got voted in as constituency MSPs, because who the fuck would vote for them? So they all got on the list. Like, they came close in 2 North East seats in the constituency vote. Yeah, I suspected as much, yeah. I think the word preceding it is pretty much evident what it does. Shower gel, clean you. Shave gel, shave. Or shave. Grady Pratt. I will put it down to too much heat to the brain from the excess sun Scotland has enjoyed, but Mr. Kerr's unionist nonsense on English is the only is the only language. Pratt seems to suggest his breed board is is in is in loaf or twat away. Basically his brain. Maybe he seeks to get away with his ignorance because he never learned about the influence of writers and Scots over the centuries and the fame and respect that he saved for their peers across Europe from the early medieval times. Aye. We can start with stunned Scots, then on to blind Harry, and via Dunbar we can arrive at the only writer in Scots who is still famous for a day every year, Rabbie, or Robert Burns. The internal rhythms of everyday Scots speech in the different wee Scots use syntax and sentence structure when we use the foreign language of accepted English. They are there for those with ears to listen to our everyday speech. This is all before considering the preponderance of Lowland and Gaelic words and idioms which make up everyday sentences in our speech, from the names of our major cities, Glasgow and Edinburgh. Yeah. So Glasgow means Deargin Place, or the way of the willows, essentially. To simple things like brogues, so brogues are the design on the shoe. It's called broguing, essentially. So you get your dress shoes. Damn, I've forgotten what they're called without. So you call them brogues because it has the design put into the leather, essentially. To describe shoes, not brogues are something specific, or jammy pieces. It is a piece in jam. Scots can be heard on every corner in towns and villages across Scotland, but because it's our own language, we dinna spear it till next you spiel. I'm just nipping down you a snicket for your messages. I'm going to the supermarket to buy my shopping or groceries. So this Scot has one response to Mr. Kerr. Away in Ballier heed ye, slathering greeting muckle buckle and take your numpty blethers wi' ye. Go away and boil your head, ye slathering greeting muckle buckle and take your numpty blethers wi' ye. The greeting crying. I'm not sure, muckle buckle. Your numpty brothers, just stupid words wi' ye. Basically, piss off. Peter Thompson via MRC, wee Tommy Kerr, he's all mouth and big farts, just treat him like he's no there. He's all mouth and big farts. I think that's, just treat him like he's no there. Like he's no there, just ignore him. The opinion poll commissioned by the National is a game-changing moment in the struggle for Scottish independence in that the majority of Scots nationalists for the first time support a unilateral declaration of independence for Scotland. Even about 20% of voters for unionist parties support this position. Sweet. We need to seize the day to reverse the many years of betrayal by the Sturgeonite leadership, who only ever believed in sucking everything for Westminster trough while bowing in deference to England. All Scottish patriots must now come together as one collective and be prepared to commit to non-violent direct action to get UDI for Scotland, says Craig Murray, as Craig Murray has called for to throw off the yoke of English domination once for all. We will not be given Scottish independence by Westminster, as they will do every dirty trick in the book to stop it from happening again. Again. They've already done it twice to us in the past, 2014 and sometime in the 70s. Chat, forgotten when. He would know. Was it 79? Was that the year I was born? They cheated. Our time has arrived to reinvigorate and re-energise the Scottish independence movement to overcome being the colonial dependency that we are to become the nation that we can be. As in the immortal memory of John Maclean, be the Scotland of equality and peace for all, giving all of our children equal life chances and the happiness they deserve. We can no longer stay in the failing UK. We have to strike out and declare UDI for Scotland or forever be colonial dependency of England. John Clerkin, Barhead. The right-wing media basically, any media not fully headquartered in Scotland, takes every chance to belittle Scotland, its government, and in particular the SNP. Great, I could substitute cream soda with fizzy orange. No thanks, Tesco. Buy that one. I know it's not to everyone's taste, but I love brew. GSD. Since the Scottish electorate continued to return SNP politicians to run our country, said media are therefore attacking the Scottish populace. Well, yeah, they are. Yet many people from other countries seem pleased to migrate here. Could said media please explain this conundrum? The media in this country sucks. Like UK. I am one of those who would find it acceptable to announce UDI and think the first act of the then government should be to nationalise all land and territorial waters, the fine details to be sorted afterwards to the advantage of the people. Thank you, M. Ross and Aviemore. Alistair Ferguson's exclusive in the Sunday National noted how well small nations score on the Prosperity Index, but missed an opportunity to discuss options for Scotland to rank among the winners. Independent's Clear Path for Scotland, a small nation's top best country charts, 28th of August. He chose instead to quote Alan Smith, SNP MSP for Stirling. He used to be an MEP. Saying Scotland's best hope for the future is as an independent nation firmly back in the heart of Europe. Lexit. I voted Remain because I didn't want those fucking clowns in charge. A closer look at the top 10 countries suggests this is not the whole story. The Prosperity Index is produced by a branch of London-based Legatum, a global investment and philanthropic firm with the mission to generate and allocate the capital and ideas to help people lead more prosperous lives. One or two red flags there, but the results do prompt us to explore what makes a prosperous nation and how Scotland can join the ranks. Nations of a similar size to Scotland do lead the field, but top scoring Switzerland is not an EU member, neither is Norway or Iceland. Denmark is a member but uses its own currency, and EU rules do not apply to its autonomous territories in the Faroe Islands and Greenland. These small nations may benefit from membership of EFTA, the European Economic Area and Schengen Zone, to guarantee free trade and movement of people, but opt out of the constraints of full membership. They're a rule taker, not a rule maker, essentially. Regardless of how they voted back in 2016, many Scots now see this kind of relationship as a better option and want MPs and MSPs to represent their views. The right of the people to decide is that we are fighting for, and the ability to make informed choices is critical. One MSP's opinion and a statistical summary from a global organisation is not enough information. Can the National help us out here? Kathy Gunn, Musselburgh. Just need to work with fuck. I quite like that idea, Comrie. Thank you. Uh, uh, two island community organisations face bankruptcy after legal row with American. Huh. You're a prat, Thomas Kerr. Let's see if there's anything else I can read in here. Do. Yeah, fuck it, I'll read this one. Ah, don't worry, Omaha. Let's update everyone about this nonsense. That is my party, Scottish Greens here. This isn't. Rejoice, comrades. Emily Dawson in chat. Hello, my dear. Why is the Electoral Commission stonewalling on far-right spoiler party? Good question. Abby! By Abby Garton Crosby, multimedia political reporter. Hello. Oh, the real Scottish politics with Abby Garton Crosby. Thank you, Abby. Here we go. It has been nearly 4 months since the Holyrood election, and in that time, reporters at the National have been hitting up against a brick wall trying to get any information from the Electoral Commission about the fallout from its decision to allow far-right spoiler party to stand. I'm doing not too bad. No, they've actually not... for most of this evening, that's why I've not been about. I've been... My right ankle and my right knee, I've been in agony. Ow. The pain has subsided. I didn't actually go live until just slightly after midnight. I tried to go live around about 10:30, 11. But I had to wait until the fucking agony had subsided. Mm. Yeah, well, there's 17 of the bastards in Holyrood. When Holyrood comes back, I'll be keeping an eye on them. The official opposition is Labour. I would say led by Anna Sarwar, but he's fucked off. He's gone down to the other place to be in Burnham's government. See you later, Anna, you fucking bastard. Don't let the door hit you on the arse on the way out. So it is kind of like Monica Lennon got stitched up, as far as I'm concerned. So currently running for Scottish Labour leader, Michael Mara, who has been there for a while. 26, 21, 16? 16, I think. He's been in for either 2 or 3 Holyrood elections now, which be, right, this one, 21, 16 might only be 2 that he's been in, actually. And Joe Fagan, who is a new intake, he literally just got in back in May. So that's the 2 running. I'm still speculating it's going to be Michael Mara. We will see. We will find out next month. I wouldn't want to go back into the EU, Comrie. I am Lexit now, essentially. I'm in the minority, by the way. Most Scots want to get back into the EU. I understand, I get it. I'd rather not go back in. Just me, my opinion. Ugh. Oh, shut Macbeth? I'm trying to figure out who you mean by Macbeth. Yeah, I voted Remain as well. But yeah, I wouldn't rejoin either. Yeah. Because I didn't want that share of fucking idiots in charge. And God help us if reform get into government down in Westminster. We're all fucked. Mm. Oh, you were talking about Annis. UN recognises countries by 4 factors: one, internationally recognised borders; permanent diaspora; parliament, government; internationally recognised sovereignty to commit treaties. To commit to treaties. All right. Yeah, I've noticed that. Hmm. Right, I'll start again. It has been nearly 4 months since the Holyrood election, and in that time, reporters at the National have been hitting up against a brick wall trying to get any information from the Electoral Commission about the fallout from its decision to allow far right spoiler party to stand. Oh, right, yeah. Independent Green Voice, or IGV, founded by former UKIP Scottish organiser and Holocaust denier Alistair McConaughey, likely blocked the Greens from winning an additional regional seat in May, which instead went to the Tories, the Scottish Tories. Delightful. The National spoke to voters who told us that they felt disappointed in themselves and the system after realising they had voted for McConaughey's group, which does not campaign or take part in hustings, rather than voting for the Scottish Greens. How is it naive? Hmm. IGV, which ran in all 8 regions in Scotland this time round, sits higher up the ballot paper than the Greens, and there have been previous concerns raised about its logo, but even by a former Commission boss himself, and how it may confuse voters. That's it there. It is not the first time that this issue has reared its head. After the 2021 Holyrood election revealed that the Electoral Commission had plenty of complaints from voters on the topic. But 5 years later, the Commission has put up the barricades when we have tried to get information about IGV, Scottish Greens, and voter confusion through an FOI. First, we asked for correspondence about IGV and the Scottish Greens in the immediate aftermath of the polling on 8th of May. We were told some of the information we had requested was held, but we were denied it due to cost grounds. What? The Electoral Commission sets limit of £450. They say this is the equivalent to 18 hours of staff time calculated at £25 an hour. The information potentially in scope is not held centrally in a single case file or location. To identify information within scope, we would need to carry out searches across multiple records and mailboxes, including records held by staff in different teams, the response read. This would require manual search and review process to determine which records fall within the scope of your request. Yanis is right about you. Rejoice, comrades. Reza Lindsay. Hi, Reza. To estimate the likely work required, we asked one member of staff in a relevant team to carry out a sample search. That search identified more than 290 emails. They argued that our request would take over 24 hours of work, so it was refused. What the Electoral Commission, you suck. So we decided to refine our request. We launched a second FOI for correspondence on the same topic, but asked only for correspondence from senior staff. This request was lodged on Monday, 29th of June, but the Electoral Commission extended it, with the response finally dropping today, 24th of August, or yesterday now. Despite taking double the amount of time to consider our request, the Electoral Commission blocked any release on public interest grounds. Boo. We hold information that you have requested, but consider it exempt from disclosure, the response reads. Scotch Green. Spoiler party. The Electoral Commission cited Section 36, which can allow information to be withheld if it would inhibit the free and frank exchange of views for the purpose of deliberation. The information contains deliberations about the requirements relating to political party registration and includes internal debates between Commission officers as they consider the proper application of those requirements, the response said. What the fuck does that mean? Commission officers need to be able to deliberate without fear that discussion will be taken out of context and reported. Well, release of the information would compromise the ability of the Commission officers to engage in free and frank deliberations on party registration matters. Following due consideration of the above, the qualified person is of the opinion that disclosure of the information would be likely to inhibit the free and frank exchange of views for deliberation, the response added. We therefore judge the public interest in withholding the information to outweigh the public interest in disclosing the information. A separate request for complaints received by the Electoral Commission relating to the logo or the name of IGV was also refused. They claimed they had not received any. Oh, God. I'm glad you got that done, Omaha. Nice one. In 2021, the IGV stood in fewer regions. They provided 67 written complaints received between polling day and the 11th of May. Initially, they had said there had been 283 complaints regarding IGV. The Electoral Commission then changed position and said they considered those queries. Oh! Hi, Gillian. Scottish Green co-leader. Gillian. We asked the Electoral Commission about its refusal to engage on the issue and the change in approach to FOIs compared to 2021. A spokesperson said, "As a public body, we recognise the importance of transparency and take seriously our duties under the Freedom of Information Act 2000. It is important that the Commission staff can deliberate regulatory matters without fear that discussions will be taken out of context. In this case, we extend our response time in line with the FOI requirements in order to consider the impact on how staff make decisions about complex regulatory matters." We wrote to the Scottish Green Party in May to explain the law and our position on this matter. Prior to this, we had offered to meet with the Scottish Green Party on a number of occasions to discuss its concerns about independent Green Voices name and emblem. Most recently in April this year. Those offers were not taken up. We remain open to discussion. The Electoral Commission knows there is an issue here. It has been raised time and time again, and yet they continue to stonewall journalists who are trying to hold them to account. IGV have made no secret about their intentions. They have a website with bizarre manifesto. Don't attend debates, don't publish any election materials, receive any donations. Even the accounts on the Electoral Commission own website shows that McConaughey paid £25 registration fee and there was no other income. Brilliant. This repeated denial and obfuscation is egregious. Yeah. There are questions that need to be answered by the Electoral Commission, which is fully aware of the concerns about IGV. But it appears that they are content to stick their heads in the sand and allow a man who was filmed with far-right agitators throwing Nazi salutes in Glasgow City Centre in recent weeks continue to disrupt democracy and confuse voters at the ballot box. Not only that, but the repeated refusal to release any information is shrouding them from scrutiny. One thing is for sure, we'll be appealing that latest FOI response and taking it to the Information Commissioner if we have to. Good. Thank you, Abby. Num. Is Kev still going? No, he's not. You were watching some Star Trek before. Nice one, Riza. What one were you watching? Do-do-do-do-do. Scotch Greens. Do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do. Stars? What? I don't know what it means by that. Will I put anything in watch later? Let us check. Well, I watched one episode of TNG and another of DS9. Good choices. TNG, girly. Oh, nothing. I've already covered Annie. Oh, is uh What the fucking... Uh, uh, uh. Hmm. Mm. Oh, there it's there. Oh, fuck no.
Balanced and nuanced way is tricky. Judging whether a new technology is going to change an industry and be a breakout climate solution, well, that's even trickier. But doing all of that as a substitute host? Who in their right mind would do that? Hi, I'm Tristan Sharman. I normally produce the vertical videos on this channel, but today I am substituting in while Simon is away on holiday. I'm definitely not being a nuclear scapegoat. Definitely not. Now, amidst the facts, claims, customers, makers, misinformation, and more, I've learned that the nuclear power debate, complex as it already was, well, it's changing. SMRs, small modular reactors, are changing it. And I want to share with you how. But you and I both know that nuclear is a divisive topic. The best way we're going to get through this is through the messy middle, through nuance and balance. So to help with that, I have this. My not a Geiger counter, my monitor for a balanced nuclear reaction. This is going to help keep me balanced. It will let me know when I go too far in favor of
I think the UN is dead as an entity. Trump killed the over keeping to international rules created in favour of the US in the first place, so it could empire build like NATO, not a thing except in name. It's followed the same path as the League of Nations, completely irrelevant and will disband when World War III kicks off. So the reason the League of Nations failed is because the Japanese walked away. That was the first domino falling. Was them going. That was Woodrow Wilson's policy. The League of Nations didn't last long. I mean, it's ironic, but seeing as history loves to rhyme with itself and human beings, yeah, no. Mm-hmm.
nuclear power and when I go too harsh on it. But just to make sure it's working, let's start off with two opinions that some people watching this video may well have. First up, nuclear power is going to solve all of our problems, including climate change. As I thought. Blindingly pro. Let's try the other opinion. There is absolutely no place in the world for nuclear power whatsoever. Blindingly against. If you closely hold one of these two views, there is a good chance that you're going to disagree with something I say in this video, and that's fine. Frankly, I'm
Yeah, yeah. Look, there's still like I don't see. It's difficult. I've got family members, actual close family members who are in the party. They're party members. I'm trying to desperately get them to join us. Dan, I really am. I'm not holding my breath though. Yeah. Rejoice, comrades. Dan Abulaith. Hi, Dan. Yeah, I'm keeping an eye on the S&P. Don't worry. Hmm.
Expecting that. But to you, I say this. Keep watching anyway. If not to have your mind changed, to at least better understand, better watching. Let's try this. Is through the messy middle, through nuance and balance.
Go.
So to help with that, I have this. My not a Geiger counter, my monitor for a balanced nuclear reaction. This is going to help keep me balanced. It will let me know when I go too far in favour of nuclear power and when I go too harsh on it. But just to make sure it's working, let's start off with two opinions that some people watching this video may well have. First up, nuclear power is going to solve all of our problems, including climate change. As I thought. Blindingly pro. Let's try the other opinion. There is absolutely no place in the world for nuclear power whatsoever. Blindingly against. If you closely hold one of these two views, there is a good chance that you're going to disagree with something I say in this video, and that's fine. Frankly, I'm expecting that. But to you, I say this. Keep watching anyway. If not to have your mind changed, to at least better understand, better empathize with where each side of the debate is coming from. Now, the nuclear debate as we know it has been a long-running one, but it's become kind of familiar at this point, right? This guy made a video about it 5 years ago, and it still holds up well. But let's just quickly recap and take this thing for a spin. Right now, nuclear power contributes to around 9% of the world's electricity supply. All of this is nuclear fission, by the way, the breaking apart of large atoms. Nuclear fusion is, and probably always will be, 30 years away. Oh.
By the way, fusion is what the sun does. So they're essentially trying to create an artificial sun. So that's the sun, the fiery yellow orb that we've been seeing a lot of recently. That is a fusion reaction. So that you're trying to tame that and put it into power form. You're saying 30 years. I'm thinking more like 50. We will see. So if it is the 30 years, I might actually see it in my lifetime. If it's 50 years, probably not. But yeah, they're basically, it's harsh. How is that harsh? That's the truth. That's literally the science of it, to do fusion. I don't get it. Hasn't really become comfortable with devolution. They promise to hold a vote in Parliament and request the powers from Westminster, knowing London will reject, and then keep their dictatorship of Holyrood. I'm angry and dimmer right now, I can tell, Dan.
Come on. So yellow is for unbalanced arguments. Got it. Well, I'm still not relying on nuclear fusion. Ain't that the truth? Now, that 9% of electricity that comes from nuclear power is not evenly distributed around the globe. Take last year. Here in the UK, it made up 12% of our electricity production. In the US, it made up 17% of electricity production. And in France, it made up 70%. 7-0. Mind you, that's been as high as 80% in the past. But generation stats aren't all that matter. No. Any power source should be judged by three things. Its affordability.
Oh, yes, they were saying in 30 years ago. They were, yeah, that's why I keep on saying it. I'm still saying 50 years from now. Not another 20 years from when they I don't know. Yeah. I don't want them to do that. No. They are on the BDS list, by the way, everyone. Barclays.
Its security, and its sustainability. But in the case of nuclear, there's also some added baggage. Safety. Nuclear power has a bad name from some high-profile accidents. There was the Chernobyl disaster in 1986, where the combination of a deeply flawed...
Rejoice, comrades. Join my cynicism. Indefinite article in the chat. Yeah, that is the joke, yeah. I'm doubtful of seeing it in my lifetime, like fusion.
Reactor design and a culture of keeping operators in the dark about those flaws led to a disaster that claimed at least 31 lives and caused 5,000 excess thyroid cancer cases in children aged 0 to 14. This was a tragedy. Then there's the Fukushima disaster of 2011, where a magnitude 9 earthquake knocked out the power systems. That was fine, there were diesel backups to manage the shutdown, until the tsunami hit, inundating and destroying those backup generators. One worker died from radiation exposure, and 2,300 people died prematurely from stresses and harsh conditions of the evacuation. This was awful, though for scale, a further 19,500 people died from the earthquake and tsunami. But that's kind of the worst of it. American viewers may also think of the partial meltdown of 3 Mile Island in 1979, but this didn't cause any deaths, and there were negligible health effects. The radiation dose was only 1% that of the background radiation in the area in a year. Yet these rare but high-profile events stick in the public consciousness. But relative to how much energy it provides, nuclear is one of the safest technologies going. Coal and gas plants render far more deaths per unit of energy they produce. And that safety record extends to the handling of waste, too. According to the Nuclear Association, not a single person has been killed or injured by the transport of nuclear waste. That's a great record, considering 20 million packages of the stuff are transported worldwide each year. And we're making progress on permanent storage of spent fuel, too. This year, Finland is opening the first permanent deep geological storage facility.
We have had decades to get a grip of these issues, and for the most part, we either have or we're getting there. But is all of the extra effort worth it? Well, let's go back to those 3 qualities of any good energy source.
Starting off with sustainability, the process of nuclear fission and the way that we harness it does not produce any carbon emissions. That gas that you see coming out of the cooling towers, that's just water vapor. Now, there are a small amount of emissions associated with building a nuclear power plant, constructing it, mainly because there's a lot of concrete involved, and then again a few more emissions associated with decommissioning it. But when you divide those emissions across the energy that a nuclear power plant provides over its lifetime, its life cycle emissions, well, those life cycle emissions are almost as low as you can get. At 12 grams of CO2 equivalent per kilowatt hour of energy generated, it's on par with wind power. Like, it's really clean. All of these are much less than the emissions from constructing and burning fuel in coal and natural gas plants. Now, when it comes to energy security, nuclear power scores quite well. One power plant can provide an enormous amount of energy, constantly, 24/7. You may have heard of this referred to as baseload energy. Now, its output can't change very quickly, so it can't leap up to meet our great peaks of energy consumption, but take a look at a generation graph like this one and you'll see its place. While solar and wind are bouncing up and down along the top, and indeed our demand bounces up and down, nuclear is usually a stalwart source at the base. Kind of like this. You've got wind and solar bouncing along the top, and nuclear at the base. Hence baseload. And grids love baseload. Oh man. Well, if that dial isn't happy with me, and if this prop has appeared to help me explain something, we're going to be coming back here later in the video, aren't we? Damn. Now, the big question, does nuclear provide all these benefits of sustainability and energy security in a way that is affordable? No, not really. Traditional nuclear power is expensive. Worse yet, it's getting increasingly expensive. Just take a look at the price change of different energy sources throughout the 2010s. In this time, the price of electricity from wind and solar plummeted to well below the level of coal, which stayed mostly the same. Nuclear, however, well, the price of that went up. Now, this probably won't come as any surprise to viewers in the UK, who have been watching the price point for Hinkley Point C climb up and up to nearly double its original estimate. Now, okay, there are reasons for this that are not entirely the technology's fault. It's more of a social thing. There is blame to be put on the UK for the fact that it stopped building nuclear power stations for over a generation and basically lost out on some expertise. When the time came to build Hinkley C, the first nuclear power plant built in the UK since the 1990s, we were rusty. Plus, the economic conditions haven't been great between COVID and record high inflation. Countries that didn't take a hiatus haven't seen quite as bad delays as the UK, but still, this price tag increase over 10 years, it's not great. I mean, even coal kept its price tag stable. Ugh. Ugh. Complimented coal. So, public image aside, nuclear power is reasonably sustainable, reasonably secure, but just has a high price cost. That's the trade-off, right? And some countries chose to accept this trade-off, and some countries chose to not. And that's kind of been the state of the nuclear power debate for years. Just, do you want to make these trade-offs or not? Except in recent years, there has been a certain level of hype building in the nuclear industry around a new approach, indeed a new technology that could drastically change that trade-off. But what is a small modular reactor? What is a SMR? Funny, that almost sounds like welcome to ASMR, SMRs, or small modular reactors, are a class of nuclear reactor with a capacity between 10
Tristan,
and
stop it.
300 megawatts. That is
Stop
unless you are the Rolls-Royce SMR, in which case you have a capacity of 470 megawatts, really pushing the limits of that definition, just as I am pushing the limits of this bit. Yeah, I think we've done enough of this. With such a range of capacities from 500 homes to 300,000 homes, or more if you're Rolls-Royce, it's fair to say there are quite a few different designs out there. A count in 2021 found there to be at least 70 different models of all different shapes, sizes, and chemistries. I am not going to get into the details of the many different designs, but as a whole, SMRs boast three key qualities. First, they're small, smaller than our traditional large nuclear reactors, and this means that they have a lower upfront cost, so an investor betting on their success is taking on lower risk, which for them is appealing. Their smaller size, though, also allows SMRs to be placed closer to where their energy might be consumed, say a power-hungry urban centre. And that's also possible because these things have a smaller amount of fuel and smaller amount of nuclear material involved with them, meaning that if the worst did happen, there's a smaller area that needs to be managed in terms of evacuation plans and things like that. But just being smaller goes against the conventional wisdom that we've had with nuclear power plants until this point. Most of our current reactors were designed around economies of scale, the idea being that if you're building a reactor anyway, you might as well build it as big as you possibly can to allow you to have some cost savings relative to the amount of power output that you can have at the end. Power output also being related to, of course, the money that you get back. So how can SMRs be economically viable if they're not going for that scale? Well, they're doing something different. They are modular. Rather than being a one-off project, SMRs are a product designed to be made and sold the same over and over again. The more that you can manufacture on a factory...
I miss him as well, Dan. He shot himself in the foot, though. Just saying. Sorry, Hamza.
floor, the easier and cheaper it is to build repeats. This is a proven thing for other large technologies like aircraft. So in an ideal world, you can think of SMRs as the IKEA furniture of the nuclear industry. As many parts as possible are made in a factory, then they are shipped out to the customer, who then just has to do a final bit of assembly at the end. Probably a bit of fiddly assembly, but you know, we're all used to that. Now, the other nice thing about modularity is that you can have a fleet model where you build multiple of the same unit on the same site, but you can do so one at a time. You can build unit number 1 and have it start outputting electricity and therefore making you some of your money back. Then whilst that's running, you can build number 2 and number 3 and so on. You can keep adding and adding. modular. SMRs are designed to be small and modular in a way that should make them more economically attractive. But they also have a third quality that they can boast. They're designed with passive safety in mind. These are safety measures that you don't need any humans who are prone to error to get anywhere near. These are things like fail-safes that use natural forces like gravity to automatically shut themselves off in case of power loss. But another bonus is that the cores are smaller, meaning they have a higher surface area to volume ratio, making them easier to cool. Now, all of this isn't to say that modern large reactors don't use some of these measures, they do, but putting an emphasis on safety with a new technology that people are already a little bit touchy about, yeah, that's not a bad thing to do.
Rejoice, comrades. John the Brazen. Hi, John.
That's pretty sensible, actually. And so when you put that together, a small land footprint and good safety measures with all the traditional benefits of nuclear being sustainable and a secure source of power, it seems like a pretty sensible thing to put in place. Maybe something we could put in place of coal power stations. Except some people think we can't? Well, it's time for a little peek behind the curtain. Whilst I've been researching this video, there has been a claim that I have seen come up in YouTube comments, Reddit threads, all over the internet, really. And the claim goes something like this. Old coal power plants can't be converted into nuclear sites because they're already too radioactive. And this claim is juicy. This claim is ironic. This claim is just yet another reason to dunk on coal. Except it's not. It is a myth. And a myth that kind of needs to be dispelled if we're going to be rolling out SMRs to these sorts of sites. But where does this come from? Well, seemingly a series of misrepresentations and misinterpretations of a paper from 1978 by J.P. McBride. You see, coal contains traces of uranium and thorium, and when that coal is burned in a coal power station, those traces end up making their way into the ash that comes as a result. And therefore that ash can emit a very small amount of radiation. The paper compares this to the effect of living next to a nuclear power station and says that it is a greater effect. But we are still looking at tiny fractions of background radiation. Those living immediately next to coal ash would experience maybe 1% more background radiation than you would otherwise expect. But health-wise, that is not something to worry about. Just as eating millions upon millions of bananas would probably cause you some other problems before the radiation added up to be harmful, again, living next to a coal power plant and amongst a huge amount of coal ash is going to cause you many more other health effects before the radiation adds up to being a problem. So how does this feed into the placement of nuclear power plants? Well, it doesn't. Whenever these are cited, the background radiation levels are measured because background radiation is something that can vary location to location based off of things like geology. So a load of coal ash at a prospective location might marginally increase the background radiation, again by something like only 1%, but that would just be factored into measurements of background radiation there. It would not stop a nuclear plant from being built there. So sorry to disappoint, but that's that myth busted. But you know, there are plenty of other reasons to dunk on coal. So, all of that said, SMRs, they seem pretty great.
Yes, Omaha.
On paper. They seem pretty great on paper, but what does the reality look like? Well, they're technically not new. For 70 years now, small nuclear reactors have been used by the US Navy for propulsion. Same goes for the UK. Being a military application, though, information is very tightly guarded around these, though it's probably safe to say that they have an astronomically high price tag. However, look around the world for SMRs that produce electricity, and you will find two in operation. Two. One is a pair of 35 megawatt electric pressurized water reactors on a barge in Russia, designed to power and heat coastal towns. It was completed in 2020 after 13 years of construction. The other is a pair of 200 megawatt electric high temperature gas-cooled reactors in China. These went commercial in 2023 after nearly 11 years of construction. And that's it. Neither of these are enjoying the cost savings of modularity yet because, well, they're the first generation units. By definition, they can't. The learnings and savings come in the form of supply chains and factory production, and neither of these are really well established. But although there are only 2 in operation right now, there are orders for more coming in from across the world. And there is hype building around this potential source of clean power, a climate solution, maybe. But a climate solution for who? Well, the first instinct is national grids trying to decarbonise. Let's take the UK as an example. The UK government as a whole is pretty enthusiastic about SMRs. The support is reasonably bipartisan, with 2 exceptions: the Green Party, whose roots as a party come from opposition to nuclear power and nuclear arms throughout the 1970s.
I don't like bananas. I'm the only family member that doesn't. My mum and both my sisters love bananas. I don't. Oh, I didn't know that. Omaha. Wow. I like strawberries. My favourite soft fruit, though, is raspberry. My sisters look at me weird. Because how can you eat them? They're so tiny. They're delicious. Thank you. Trident. Do you like melon? Nice one, Dan. Cool.
1980s, and as well as that, the SNP in Scotland, who oppose nuclear due to its costs and safety concerns. Now, of those in favour of nuclear power, the Conservatives and Reform kind of see it as the only source of renewable power that we need. Spoiler alert, that's not the case. Renewable power is a yes and situation. The more different types you have complementing one another, the better. Nevertheless, the mostly bipartisan support of nuclear power in Westminster has allowed successive governments to continually support nuclear development. Things like Hinkley Point C, Sizewell C, and now SMRs. Now, there are 2 broad ways that a government may support SMRs. The first is policy and regulation support, making the regulations around the nuclear industry more fit for purpose and able to serve these emerging designs. This includes going from having a
Omaha, that's got rot. We used to drink that stuff. We don't drink it anymore. It has got rot. God, don't go near it. Ugh.
predetermined list of 8 nuclear sites to instead going for a criteria-based system, which opens up opportunity to have SMRs in a lot more places. As well as that, explicit criteria have been set out to private SMR developers to basically spell out exactly what is expected of them if they're going to build an SMR. Now, our government's second option for support is direct funding, and, well, that's happening as well. £2.6 billion were allocated at the 2025 spending review to the SMR program. Part of that funding will be going towards a contract that was signed earlier this year between Great British Energy Nuclear, a publicly owned energy investment company that focuses on, you guessed it, nuclear, and Rolls-Royce SMR, a subsidiary of Rolls-Royce. That contract is for the first SMR to connect to the UK grid. It is expected to be made up of 3 units, each with a capacity of 470 megawatts. So the larger end of small modular reactors, but we'll let that slide. That means that soon enough, 1.4 gigawatts of power will be flowing from the site in Wolver, North Wales. Now, Rolls-Royce claim that the levelized cost of energy for this power will be below £70 per megawatt hour. Other studies estimate that this might be optimistic, but not unreasonable, though frankly we'll just have to wait and see. Now, all of the efforts provided by the UK government, the planning changes and the funding, add up to produce a pretty good support package. The UK government is unambiguous in its support for SMRs, meaning investors have the confidence to invest. And the UK's approach seems like it's more so anticipating the needs of this technology rather than running to play catch-up, which is great. Energy transitions work best when you have both the technological and the social-political elements working to develop themselves at the same time in parallel, rather than one after the other. That all being said, there is only so much that can be done to speed up the construction of this first generation SMR. We still have to wait for this thing to be built before we can start reaping the rewards of it. And how long will we be waiting? Well, until the mid-2030s. Yeah, that's kind of a while away, isn't it? And that's just for the first generation. Is there any other SMR projects that we can look at? We can follow the money and find other SMR customers, but brace yourself because you might not like who they are. Who could possibly use vast swathes of energy 24/7 all for themselves? Data centers. Data centers could do that. Amazon Web Services are investing $500 million into SMRs through Energy Northwest in Washington. Specifically 4 SMRs with a combined capacity of 970 megawatts, enough to power 770,000 US homes. These due for completion in the early 2030s. Meanwhile, Google is buying 6 or 7 SMRs from Kairos Power to power their AI data centers. The first unit is expected to be delivered by 2030 and the rest by 2035. Now, AI or not, data centers need decarbonizing, and as a firm source of power, SMRs fit the bill. Wind, solar, and storage combos are already demonstrating in some places that they too can fit the bill, but there's a certain simplicity to an SMR-powered data center, just as, unfortunately, there is a simplicity to the other alternatives that are powering data centers right now. Gas power plants have been seeing a major boom in the US over the past couple of years in response to the widespread prevalence of AI data centers. And in China, coal is powering a lot of data centers there, albeit it's not seen the same boom as has been seen in the US. Expansion of fossil fuels, indeed the incentive to expand fossil fuels, is a big problem. This is a step backwards from everything we're trying to achieve in terms of solving climate change. So when it comes to cleanly powering data centers and other industrial processes for that matter, maybe SMRs are part of the solution. The first generation of SMRs is likely to be the most expensive that they will be, but big tech could foot that bill, and in doing so, in being the early adopters, could bring down the price for the rest of us. Solar panels, electric cars, batteries, they all had early adopters which helped bring down the price of them. So these tech companies investing in SMRs, I mean, it's not the worst thing they could do for the planet, though that is a low bar. That bar is in fact pre-warming itself down in hell before it then comes up to the surface and finds climate change happening. Now, if the price did come down a bit, whether that be through national governments buying them, or whether that be through big tech buying them, or a combination of the two, there is a third use case that SMRs could potentially serve: remote communities. They need decarbonization options just like the rest of us. Solar and wind power are often the best option for this and can be community owned, which brings a load of other social benefits too, which is great. But in rare instances where solar and wind aren't viable, and maybe biomass isn't particularly either, SMRs could be an option. Community owned nuclear power stations feels optimistic. But in terms of delivering a clean power source to a remote community, we do actually have an example of an SMR doing this. The SMR on a Russian barge is powering a port town, Pevek, in the Arctic. But even with this niche use case and demonstration, and of course the other uses of data centers and national grids, there's still one glaring problem.
Mid-2030, early 2030s, 2030, and the rest by 2035.
Time. Every 1/10 of a degree of warming brings with it worse and worse impacts for the planet. And the root cause is the accumulation of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere.
Won't happen, Omaha. It's cynical here. I don't see any Western government doing it at all. No. As much as I'd love to see it, It ain't going to happen, unfortunately. I'll just get called cynical by some people, though. Yeah. Don't care. Unfortunately, yeah. Oh. Mm.
So we're of course aiming for net zero, but how we get there matters. Hannah Ritchie has a great breakdown of this. If we start cutting emissions early, our total emissions whilst we do so, represented by the area under the graph, can be kept low. However, if we delay our emissions cuts until the last minute, we could still reach net zero by 2050, but emit up to 2.5 times the emissions in the interim. That would produce far more warming and associated climate damages. So can SMRs be relied on to avoid the worst of warming? Can they bring down our emissions drastically, say in the next 10 years? No, they can't. I mean, just for argument's sake, let's think up the best case scenario for SMRs. In that scenario, all of the SMRs commissioned right now will be completed on time, on budget. And in seeing this success and wanting in on it, countries across the world would redirect loads of funding into SMR research and development. Oh god. A few standout designs would come to the forefront. They'd have to outcompete the 70-odd designs in the makes right now. I mean, they can't all scale. Oh, that was kind of true, okay. But they would do this quickly. And the makers of the victorious designs would then be able to rapidly set up their supply chains and their factories all across the continent. And at the same time as this, national governments from across the world would make it as easy as possible to implement SMRs. They'd put a wrecking ball through planning permission. They'd make sure that it is as easy as possible to get an SMR built. They'd let operators start exporting energy from a single SMR unit the moment it had finished building, allowing them to keep construction happening on the site, but already be making some of their money back. And their grids would favour baseload as well. This delivery at scale would be a superhuman effort, and it is probably not going to happen like that. I mean, even if it did, somehow the emissions reductions wouldn't arrive until the 2040s, maybe even the 2050s. And of course, things could not go right. Let's be pessimistic for a minute. It's possible that all of these SMRs come out over budget and over time. Now, with the understanding that these were all first generations of these designs, they wouldn't be scrapped outright, but no model would come through as a particular winner. If the world doesn't settle on a winning design, or a few winning designs particularly quickly, you're just going to have diluted progress. Delays would be the name of the game. Scaling would be almost impossible due to the sheer amount of competition. And because of a lack of agreement on the chemistries involved, both the investment and scale is almost impossible, but also safety regulation would be slow to keep pace too. But the worst possibility is that the hype stays. If investors and governments alike keep pouring more and more money that could be used for climate mitigation into SMRs, but without good results, sure, maybe they'll eventually take off, but our emissions cuts in the meantime, in the interim, will be less. We'll be emitting more and more emissions still. And at that point, the climate's toast. Okay, enough of the extremes. Okay, most likely neither of those scenarios are going to happen. It's going to be something in the middle. But they still illustrate my point. Betting our energy emissions on a technology of the future, at best, won't deliver the deep emissions cuts that we need now. And at worst, will be a waste of money. This is the classic speculation that comes with a new technology, yet these are the sorts of conversations that the nuclear industry is heading towards. The climate can't afford this. It can't afford us to wait for another new technology to cut emissions. It especially can't wait for new technology aimed at solving a problem that we already have an answer for. We already have cheap renewable power in the form of wind and solar. And it's so cheap that certainly on the UK electricity market, where the cheapest forms of electricity enter into the market first, it's already filling up our generation pretty well. Over the next 10 years, it's going to keep filling them up. In fact, it may even satisfy all of our demand at certain points in time. But even if it doesn't, we're adding more and more capacity every year. And because wind and solar generation are variable, but also because our demand varies over the course of the day, the gaps left between that generation and demand, they're not going to be consistent throughout the day. And the thing is, where these gaps vary, particularly hour to hour, they're better served by flexible power, which nuclear it's firm, it's not. Batteries and storage, yes, they're still developing, but they will have a much easier time of filling these gaps. Or, assuming that nuclear doesn't get cheaper than renewables, you can change the way that things enter the market and allow baseload to enter in first, then allowing renewables to enter in over the top. And then if there's too much power being generated for the grid to handle at any particular point, renewables are easier to curtail, to switch off. So you may need to pay them to do so, but you can balance your grid that way. The bottom line here is that wind and solar are already decarbonising a lot of our electricity grid. And in doing so, they're rewiring how we think about our grids. They're making flexibility much more important. And they're making firm power, baseload power, perhaps not so much of a necessity. And therefore that means that one of nuclear's main selling points is therefore less of a necessity. Now we do think that for a fully decarbonised grid, having some firm power as well as your renewables and as well as your storage is actually going to be the cheaper way of reaching a net zero grid, a completely clean grid. Cheaper than not having firm power and just relying purely on renewables and storage. But technologically speaking, it's not a necessity. And to the best of my knowledge, but this is probably more of my opinion, it's probably going to be easier to reach a state where we have some amount of nuclear and a moderate amount of storage compared to no nuclear and a major amount of storage, because that's probably going to be difficult to deploy. I say, it's my opinion. But ultimately, the thing to know from this is that nuclear, baseload, firm power, it's not a necessity. So, conclusion time. Let's see if I can thread this needle. The nuclear power debate is changing. It's evolving. It used to be a judgment of known trade-offs. Low carbon and secure energy in return for a high price tag and a mixed public image. But now the debate is shifting into a set of arguments that the climate space have heard again and again. That a future technology is going to solve our present problems. We just have to wait for it. For people in the nuclear industry, SMRs are full of promise. They are the next generation of power plants. But the nuclear power industry's #1 priority is to keep itself alive, to keep itself profitable through the products that it creates, the services that it provides. SMRs look like the future of the nuclear industry because they might end up being more economically viable, but they are not the future of the nuclear industry because they're necessarily a better climate solution. The best climate solutions are the ones that we can implement at scale now in order to rapidly cut our emissions now. And we have everything we need already to do that for our electricity grids. We have large nuclear reactors that we can extend the lives of. We have gigawatts upon gigawatts of wind and solar that are coming through, scaling at the pace that we need them to, at least. We have batteries whose prices are already in freefall, and we can change our energy consumption and demand patterns in order to make all of this easier. That's an entirely different conversation, but it can be done. So as I look at SMRs, I struggle to see a major climate solution. But having said all of that, looking around in 2026, there are data centers popping up everywhere. Well, trying to pop up everywhere. And like it or not, these are increasing our need for 24/7 sources of energy. Wind and solar is picking up some of that, but we are seeing gas plants coming back online or having lives extended, which we cannot afford. It's a backward step. So as I look at these and recognize that they do need decarbonizing, they need a clean source of power, I can't help but think that SMRs might play a partial role in that. I think on paper it looks like they could fit the bill, and I'm not the only one who thinks so. That's why Google have ordered theirs, that's why Amazon have ordered theirs. So here is how I now look at SMRs. They are likely to come around in their own time, but I'm not relying on them to do the heavy lifting when it comes to decarbonising our electricity grid. It's been 25 years since the UK put up its first 2 offshore wind turbines, and so by that logic we can kind of say that SMRs are at least 25 years away from a serious...
One of the windiest nations in Europe, this country. Scotland. Just do more on and offshore. Problem solved. And yeah, he's right about the battery prices coming down. They're basically nosediving, which is good. Just do more on and offshore and tidal. I scream into the void about this. Just do title. Please. Please. Mm. Yeah. Like there's other data centers that can get someone was telling me about this. AI ones, no, fuck off. But the standard data centers to boost our internet in the country, and they're not as bad as AI data centers because you need to keep them really fucking cold. Hence the use of water. So you use the water to cool them, and you can't use the water after it's used for cooling the AI data centers. It can't be used again. It gets wasted. I know we're one of the wettest nations in Northern Europe. The Expanse. Hang on, is that on the... I'll check later and get back to you. I haven't seen The Expanse yet, Reza. Feel free to give me a little synopsis of it in the chat.
Level of scale like what offshore wind is producing now, it probably is worth putting a little bit of money into them, so long as it's not at major detriment of the efforts that we're making now to mitigate climate change. Consider this an early investment and planning into what is going to be happening later in the end game, when we're decarbonising remote communities and topping up national grids that are otherwise pretty flexible, and powering a few data centers begrudgingly. If you do come across any rhetoric of changing the world with SMRs or saving the planet with SMRs, be skeptical. Let's watch and see what happens. Let's watch and see if Rolls-Royce can successfully build their SMR here in the UK on time and within budget, and then see if they can build Unit 2 and Unit 3 for cheaper. But let's not delay climate action any further because there is another technological fix on the horizon. We have everything that we need already. Thank you for watching through to the end of this video. We did it, everybody. We gave Simon a holiday. This video, and indeed the team that Simon has put together, has only been made possible by the support that Simon receives through his patrons over at patreon.com/SimonOxFizz. In exchange for their support, starting at £3 a month, they get provided early access to videos, exclusive content every month, and at producer tier and higher, the ability to vote on video topics.
And a special thank you to Premislav Rochnavsky, Jeremy Miller, and Nostian.
In fact, this video was the result of one of those polls. And they didn't half give me the trickiest one of the bunch. On a personal note though, thank you to my girlfriend for helping me paint this. Thank you to Luke and Amelia on the team for helping me produce this video. Thank you to Simon for the opportunity, but most importantly of all, thank you for watching. You'll get Simon back in the next one.
I suspect it was a sci-fi show. Thank you, Reza. Thank you for recommending it. Thank you. I don't know what to do next. I'm open to suggestions. Let's see. Oh yeah, Jim watched it. Whoa. Fucking hell. Over 1,200 comments. Christ. We'll not go through all of them. Home. Oh. uh, uh, I can't think of anything else to cover. All right. Thank you, Omaha. In fact, you know what? I will actually read out because I can't think of anything else to cover. Actually, everyone. Sorry, YouTube comrades. How many did I have? Oh, I've got 7 here on Twitch. Thank you, comrades. So, YouTube friends and comrades and chatters, go where you wish. But let's see who I can raid on Twitch, shall we? Raid channel. Good night, everyone. Stay hydrated. With brew. Or stay hydrated with brew. If you like it. Self care is good care. Take your meds if you need to take any. Stay based. Free Palestine. And look after yourself out there. No. Raptor it is. Raptor, where are you? Let us go and say hello to Raptor, shall we?
So, like,
Jim!
I genuinely believe this guy doesn't fully understand what he's saying. Novella described as Joy Division, which groups of women in prison. Yep, we knew that one. Oh, this is about the groups of women, not even. Oh. Ugh. And this is taught. Oh, yeah, it is considered a non-fiction novel. Ugh. Ugh. Like, I can see it happen, but it's still taught in schools? Yeah. That's what I'm looking at right now. Mad Cat, thank you for the raid. I feel like it's important to still have that conversation,